Hey everyone, and welcome to the Leathercraft Community Podcast Show. My name is Steve Vampalou. On today's episode, we are sitting with a world-class artist, the one and only Steve Yezek. Now, I cannot wait for you guys to hear his story and learn a little bit more about him. So with that being said, Steve, welcome to the Leathercraft Community Podcast Show.
I'm glad you got to see me.
We finally made it. We finally made it happen.
I'm glad you get to see me.
Let's talk about your journey and how you got started in leathercraft.
Well, I've watched a lot of your podcasts, and I don't have that. I do not have that fairy tale thing.
That's all right.
Didn't start in 4-H. Didn't start as a youngster. Got into horses and late, and wanted to, I'm one of these guys who wants to know everything I can about something, and so first you do everything wrong, so get poor fitting saddles and crappy saddles and all that, and then it's like start trying to do things right. And we were on a family vacation out in the Black Hills and decided we should go over to Sheridan because it had been voted like the #1 best Western town or something. I'm like, okay, let's go see what this is about. And walked into what was the custom cowboy shop, Don Butler's. And I'd never seen tooling like that. It was like, what the hell? And they're calling it carving. And I'm like, you mean you take a chisel and you cut this out of the leather? I mean, I was so green. So I knew nothing. I never questioned how they made boots or wallets or belts or anything. It's like, you just go buy them. Mm-hmm. And I dove in. And then, bought the Tandy Ultimate Leatherworker kit and might as well throw that $600 right out the window as I was driving, because the box came damaged. Half the tools were gone. And I'm like, and I didn't know what the tools were. So I had to go over the list and say, I'm missing, I'm supposed to have an edger. What's an edger?
Yeah.
I had no idea. So I have a lot of nothing. I have some things, I don't know what they are. I have other things I don't have. I don't know what they are either.
Yeah.
Green.
Yeah. Very, very green.
And so anyways, went out for several years. I used to go out. I used to do a lot of elk hunting. Love the West. And I also have some friends at ranch out there, and I'd go out and help them in the fall, get ready to ship cattle. And so after I was done working for a week with them, that was my vacation. I'm like one of these guys that doesn't like just sit in a beach chair,
You went and did actual work on vacation.
Yeah. And they like what Midwestern workers. Mm-hmm. and the price was right, free.
That's right.
So I'd get done and I'd go into town, into Sheridan. They were 40 miles from Sheridan. And I'd go bug Don Butler. And he was very tolerant, and then I'd go to King's, and everybody's very tolerant of a greenhorn because you'd go, and then I'd already started to decide, I'm going to learn how to do this shit. I've got the tools and they're going, yeah. I'm thinking like with Jim Jackson when he was in the museum that he hears that like 50 times a day. And he didn't roll his eyes. He would just smile. He was so kind. And Don Butler was very tolerant because he just listened to this gunsel.
Yeah.
He would just listen to you. And then, but I was all eyes. I've always been all eyes. Like if I see it, and I also realize if one man can do it, so can another. Mm-hmm. So it's that part where you go. So I was paying attention what I was seeing. And it was back in the era where people would cover their stuff up. And so I had that happen. And I was like, what is it? I was like, my shoe's wrong or, who knows? But I didn't understand any of it. I didn't hear anything. And finally, Don Butler, after several visits, said, they do this leather show here in the spring. I go, what do you mean? Oh, yeah, they do this thing. It's called the Rocky Mountain Leather Show. And I'd had like one Leathercrafter's Journal. It was all I ever had gotten in several years. And I bought it when I was on that trip to Sheridan. And I must have paged through it 100 times. And I got to know like anybody that was somebody in the industry, that if they were in that issue,
yeah,
like Jesse Smith was in there and some other people. So I like, like, oh, I know those guys.
Yeah.
Because I saw their picture. I never met them. And I remember, so I thought, okay, well, quit coming out here in the fall and working for free. Come in the spring, work for free, and go to the show.
Yeah.
And went to the first show, my first class ever. Other than I had already taken a 1-week saddle course. Guy told me he can teach me how to do it in a week. He could teach me, he could show me how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he could, I left with the saddle. I had no knowledge. It was like, it was just, it was a condensed, very, anyways, went to and took a class Monday night. The first class was with Jesse Smith. It was an awesome class. Of course, nothing. Everything's awesome. Like when you're new, you've got this excitement and took a class. I mean, I never had a day off. And Friday the show started and I was leaving Saturday morning. There was no classes and I was leaving because I had to go back. I'm self-employed and it's like back to the grind, man.
Yeah.
And so I actually skipped the class Friday afternoon because I want to see. I went out there too with maybe $40 for spending money.
Yeah.
Well, how far does that go?
Yeah.
That's just if they had charge admission, I would have really been in dire straits because I had and but boy, I cut my teeth on it. And at that time too, I was just trying to learn more about saddles. Tooling, even though I wanted to learn to tool, tooling was not my primary focus. My focus was saddles. And I thought the tooling, I took everything really it's easy. It'll be easy. Hardest thing I've ever done.
Oh boy.
But hey, I'm smiling about it now, ain't I?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's quite, and here I am 20 odd
Years later.
I wasn't, as a youth, I was all art. I never took a shop class. I was always art. I took all art classes, photography classes, any kind of art, aced them all. And I moved up to where I live now and then got married and life began.
Yeah.
And I set it all aside. I did nothing with art, nothing till I took up leather. So told you it's not like anybody, not like anybody else's story, right?
It's wild. And now you have a wonderful shop and you built this shop. Talk to me about what do you do in this shop, orders wise?
It's that's a moving target because there was a time when I was going to quit my construction business and be a saddle maker.
Got it.
And then I woke up one day and realized that I live in the Midwest and the values of Midwestern people in tack is different from the values of out in, Sheridan and wherever out west where the horses are a real part of their life. Right. So I don't know. There's no good way to say it, so I won't say it, but they don't have the same values.
Got it.
They won't pay the same money. They won't pay the same for the services. There's so many things they won't do. And people will tell you now, oh, you just got to do this. And it's like, yeah, well, I'm a failure then. And so when the day came after probably a 10-year struggle of trying to make this business go, I came to the realization that I can make as much in one day as a contractor as I could make in all my spare time in the saddle shop. And I had to just let that dream go. And I was like, wow, I didn't have any preparation for this, so I quit. Leather was not a focus. I mean, I was still going to go to the shows. I was still going to learn. But when I quit comparing what I knew and what I could do and what were the standards that the industry, what do saddle makers do and what do people that make different projects, what they do? And I started just going but what do I do? because I failed at Sheridan. I that conformity and that discipline that they need to do what they do. I was a terrible failure at it. I had all I could do to do 2 flowers alike, rather say like, oh, I'm going to do 30. Ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
And it really, nothing was resonating with me. It was really slow. So I just started focusing on tooling and drawing patterns. And there's a point where I think everybody, we all want to be somewhere. We want to get to some level, or whether it's the top or whatever it is. And there's all this process we have to go through. But I wasn't making any headway. And when I quit, when I had no like goal, and I could just come out here and do what I wanted to do, everything changed. Oh. And everything advanced at warp speed. Like 10 years went by. And somewhere in there was a friend who pushed me. I get a little choked up because he was a good friend. He's deceased. He's not with us anymore. Died at a young age. But anyways, funny thing is he pushed me into doing pattern packs. And I knew nothing about that. It was not on my radar. Like, I didn't think I was good enough. He pushed me and pushed me. He was relentless, and I was like, all right, I'll do it. And, I talked to people in the industry and who's going to make them for me and whatever. And there was never like oh, this is going to be really good. You're going to make money on this. It was kind of like, well, just let me warn you, it's not that great.
Yeah.
And I put this stupid pattern pack out and it went like crazy. Like I couldn't even imagine it. And I was like, and it just kept going. It kept going. And it just was like, wow, like it's not that good, is it?
Oh, but it was good. And the audience told you that it was good.
I still didn't believe them. I don't believe anybody to this day. It's that being that, I know, you know what a pessimist is.
Yeah.
An optimist with experience. So then I went from that, and then he started harping on me about teaching. And I'm like, oh gosh, like I don't, why me, and well, I succumbed and I began teaching. And so what did this shop become? It became a pattern factory.
Yeah.
And it became a tooling patterns factory. I mean, it was like all research and development and never a final product a final product got out in the market.
Yeah.
But
let's talk about tooling now. And I really want to pick your brain about the depth, because I think people see depth differently. And I feel like when people look at your work, they're like, oh, that's got some depth to it. But like, what does that mean, or how do you see depth?
Well, people talk about depth and they think because I can hammer it down, well, that's physical depth, right? We made relief.
Yeah.
Great. That's what it affords you. And then too often, and this is a part where I'm going to just be frank. I'm not going to point things out about people, but there's a part where people aren't taking an artistic approach to this. They're taking a mechanical approach to it. Artists learn to see the world differently. When we look at a tree or a house, there's no line around it. There's contrast. There's depth. The depth is from colors, shadows, light reflection, light absorption. I saw nobody in the industry like paying attention to that. All they kept telling you is how to tool it to get relief. So obviously early on, I wasn't depth. That kind of depth was not, and I wasn't focused on that. I had an understanding of it, but we don't need to do it in leather because we get relief. When I started to think that way, it's like, boy, did that open a can of worms. But this is a part where I say you have to look at the world. I tell everybody that's a student, you have to start looking at the world for what it is, not what you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that means you have to start seeing shadows. You have to start seeing, tonal values and textures and what absorbs light and what reflects light and what. And if you consider all that, and I've told you this many times, everything we need to know in tooling is within 6 inches between our ears. And if you get that, it'll come out of your hands.
Yeah.
And when you start to understand that, where you tool it, you eventually will start to draw it. You'll be able to create the designs that will afford you that kind of depth.
Hey, y'all, I want to talk to you about the very first sponsor for the Leathercraft Community Podcast Show, and it is Leather Machine Company. If you are looking to upgrade your workshop or to speed up the process on making items, then look no further than Leather Machine Co. They have various sewing machines of multi-purpose needs, along with leather cutting and splitting machines. Check out their website or give them a call for more information. Now, let's go back to the show. So how important is the design process when you are thinking on focusing on depth on your piece?
It's everything.
Design is everything then,
If you don't, so depth comes by design. It can't come later because then you're left with just relief.
Mm.
If you think about what an engraver gets out of a coin, we see that full dimension of that head.
Yeah.
Right? Engravers are the greatest at understanding. So they know when it comes, they're always considering light reflection, absorption, all those things. It's all that matters to them. And then they just have to pull it off. And so when you're doing this design, you have to be considering it. It's just, I shouldn't say that. Sometimes we get on a soapbox and we always say you have to. You don't have to do anything. If you want this.
Got it.
You have to do this.
Yeah.
I don't know any other way to get it other than that's it. I only know that if you draw the depth, you will tool the depth.
Do you ever ask yourself, how does this tool affect this technique, or why am I doing this technique with this particular tool? Because there's more than one way to do everything, right? Do you ever think as you're tooling, gosh, why am I always using this one tool for this one process?
Totally. Your tools, this is the part that everybody probably, I don't know, but people take a class. They want to see a tool. They want to see a draw.
Yeah.
They want to see, how did you do it? And it's like, do you want to see how I did it yesterday or how I'm going to do it today? I don't do it the same. I just love to screw up. Fail fast, fail often.
Oh,
and
you took my next question. I was going to ask you about this.
It's, I don't even compete against myself any longer. I just come out and I go, and I think about a lot of what I'm doing though. When I'm walking in the woods or when I was doing my day job, I'd be, that really, I'm really tough on myself. In the middle of the night, I can wake up and say, that piece is really bad, throw it away. And I wake up and I get up in the morning finally, and it wasn't as bad as I thought. And so then I look at it and I go, but what was it that had me nervous and I don't know, but I'm not afraid to fail. I really am not, when I do something, and I'm not afraid to post the failures, I'll put something on there and forget to do a deco cuts. I don't care.
Yeah.
I really don't care. Because you know what? I'm human. And I'm a flawed one too. So to do it, and so exploring what your tools will do, it teaches you so much. Like, my tool has limitations. Do I modify it? Do I get another tool made? Do I have to draw it differently? Can I never pull off what I thought? Those are all possibilities. My wife used to she'd say, do this flower. Bet you can't do it. Challenge accepted.
Yes, right.
And come out and pull it off on a flower that fail maybe 3 times.
Yeah.
But I could have a 5-petal flower and 4 of them are failures, but the 5th petal I nail it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've posted those pictures. And sometimes you go, wow, that was a pleasant mistake. And people go, oh, I like how you did that. And you go, I wonder if I can do it again.
I want to touch back on this quote that you said, fail fast and fail often. I think maybe some people may resonate with that and some people may not, and that's totally fine. But I think it's quite invaluable because when I make something, I don't post it online, but like I'll finish it up and then I'll set it on my bench. And then like the next day I'll grab it and I'll take it to work with me and I'll just look at it from a good rest and a new clear mind, right?
Yeah.
So when I look at this, like I like dog collars and I know people think, oh, it's just a dog collar. But like for me, I'm trying to really perfect it. And I'm really trying to understand from the time that I put it on my dog and I let my dogs wear these collars for like 7 months straight. And then I take them off and I look at where are the weak points? What did I mess up on? I'm telling you, I just throw them all in the trash or I throw them in the box and I'm just like, these are garbage, man. I'm like, I can't believe I made this. So this fail often, fail fast thing I really resonate with that a lot.
There's some people who are so good, their preparation skills and their research are so good. But if you ask them, and a good example of that is Yone. The guy's dialed in.
Yes, he sure is.
He's just everything we all want to be.
Yeah.
You know? And he's a great person too. But I was doing a class once here at my shop. I had about 8 people. And a young guy had incredible talent. But he was frustrated because it wouldn't come fast enough. You know? And he'd see somebody doing something that's like, and he was so close, but he just didn't have that patience. I also had 2 people here that had one had won first place in the saddle division in geometrics. Impeccable saddles. And another guy had won in some different classes and great stuff. And I said, is your stuff perfect? Does it exist? Both of them said, oh, heavens, no. Like, no. Oh, God, what would you change? Oh, and their laundry list would come out. And I was hoping for this guy to say, allow yourself some grace. You aren't perfect. You are a human.
Yeah.
You're just human. Like, but it's almost kind of like that race to the top can really like drive them, and that failure is just not an option. Yeah. Well, I guarantee if you talk to Yoni, like, how many feathers did you make that weren't quite what you want? He probably has a pile.
I'm sure he's got like the largest tote bin filled.
Yeah. But the most thing is and this is, you always hear this, enjoy the process.
Yeah.
The process, if it's only enjoyable with success, you're going to burn. You're going to be that bottle rocket, poof. And because it's like embracing the failure and using them for growth and allow yourself that grace. Like,
yeah.
Gosh, wouldn't I love it if I just, everything I touched, like I was Midas? Wouldn't I be somebody?
Yeah.
You'd interviewed me sooner.
Let's circle back to tooling, and I want to talk about now. We covered depth, but let's talk about layers. How do you, in your mind, process layering, and how do you go about, and what layers do you do first?
Well, gosh, there is where I wish that's. So, do you believe in natural ability?
Yes.
So, I don't.
Interesting.
I believe. Have you heard of Malcolm Gladwell with the book Outliers?
Outliers, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
If you read that.
I have not, but I heard.
If you read that, every artist, every creator should read that, because when you read it, you'll have a better understanding where I'm coming from. I'm not going to quote a bunch of this stuff, but so at a young age, my parents put a pencil in my hand. Okay. I wanted it to be my left. My mom says, no, we don't have any left-handers. She put it in my right. I became a right-hander.
Got it.
but I drew. And think about this. If you picked up the pencil in most families and they couldn't realize that was your dog, they'd say, Johnny, here's a baseball. Try throwing that. If you threw that good, they're going to push you towards baseball. If you draw good, they're going to push you towards drawing. I had all this support of my parents. I had an uncle that was an artist. So there might be some genetic stuff, right? There might be that gift. But more than anything was I was never bored. If I was bored, I was drawing. And then I wasn't bored. So I burned up. And in that book, he mentions 1, 7, 10, 10,000. If you spend 1 hour a day, 7 days a week, 10 years, you got 10,000 hours and you can master anything. And I don't know about mastery because I got well over 10,000 hours. I don't consider myself anything close to a master. I don't even like the term. But some people would argue it and say, oh, yes, you definitely are. But so when you ask about, like, how do I come about these layers? Well, there's this part where, when you're on autopilot and you quit thinking about it. I come out in my shop and I crank the music in any genre. I just, whatever touches me that moment. And I get in the zone and I draw. And now I can't tell you where those layers come from, but I do consider them. This is really important because as an instructor, I can't just be the wannabe guy up there. People are paying your money and it's like, I got to know. I have to know. I have to consider this. So and being an instructor will make you think about things that you just took for granted. And so as I started thinking about layers, it's like, okay, what's different about mine and that one? What's different? Oh, it's layers. There's layers. I have to start thinking I'm creating layers. My medium only allows me, say I'm on super heavy saddle skirting, I got a 1/4 inch, like great, but I tool mostly 5 ounce and get the layers that guys can't get in saddle skirting. Some people can't get in saddle skirting or don't try to. And because I'm aware of layers and levels, I don't know, man. I wish I had a better answer. I don't have that. But I know that I see things.
Got it.
I'm a visual person. I see in pictures. And so when I see it, and you can never unsee things. Other people say, like, I want to unsee. I can't unsee that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. You see something, it influences you, good or bad.
Got it.
And so when I see something that's inspirational, I was like,
yeah,
I probably jump to layers. I jump to light.
Hey everyone, our second sponsor for the Leathercraft Community Podcast Show is none other than the Leather Crafters Journal. Carrying on a tradition of 68 years of publishing the magazine for leather workers and artists worldwide, they also host 3 trade shows in the United States and 1 in Europe. Give them a call or visit their website and use the promo code COMMUNITY and you will receive an additional free magazine added to your subscription at no charge. The Leather Crafters Journal truly sets the standard with staying up to date on all things leathercraft. If it's about leather, it's in the journal. Now, back to our show. You briefly talked about music, and I was going to lead to this next question, which is like, do you have any like special shop rituals? Like, for example, some people have to have certain lights on their workbench when they're tooling, or they have to tool only when the sun is out so they get all this natural light, that kind of stuff. Do you have any, besides just blasting whatever music you want to listen to?
Yeah, I come in, I like my shop. It's light enough. I had my old shop upstairs in this building was way dimmer, but I had good eyes. And as I've aged, I've needed more light. So like, I wish I could say this is all out of necessity. But as a ritual, no, it's like, if I want to do my best work, there's a stimulation I get from the music. I'm not a musician. It was one of them things like, I wish I would have done that. I'm not that disciplined. I'm pretty lazy. So
is that why your shop's called Lazy White Leather?
Yeah, there's a big story about that. Behind my dad used to always say, "You are the laziest SOB," and it was a bad it was a point of contention as a youth. But then as I went into this, like, what are you going to name it?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, lazy, the lazy letter is a Western thing, the brand, a sideways letter is lazy.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, why not do lazy Y? I'm lazy anyways. So it really worked. But it could have been anything, I'm not at all, the brand means nothing to me. It's weird that it even exists. I don't sign anything. I don't even put my maker's stamps on shit anymore. I just
Yeah. Now, speaking of tooling, is there any particular type that you currently enjoy right now? Like, what do you enjoy doing?
Man, I really wish I could say. So I always look, and what it is people will say now, like you go, there's a point where you want to have a style. I really used to, when I first started really wanting to get good at tooling, I was a disciple of Gordon Anderson. I was like, oh, that's different. I love it, and I tried to emulate it and I failed, just like I did with Sheridan. It wasn't me. And so I started doing my own thing, and then people would start saying, you got a style, you got this, you got that. I'm like, oh, whatever, name it whatever you like. I can't really. So what I did though, is I thought, I want to make my stuff where they can't tell whose it is. And then funny thing is, somebody will like be on Facebook and they'll say, I was scrolling through 100 miles per hour and I saw something. I stopped and I went back and sure enough, it was yours. And I'm like, damn it. Like, I don't want that. Like I want to do something nobody knows whose it is.
Yeah.
I really, again,
You want to live in the shadows or be a little more incognito, I think.
Yeah, you drove here.
I did.
You drove here. You know where I'm at. Like, I'm not, it's like you wouldn't look on the map and say, there's got to be a leather guy there.
You're
and
far from it. You're in the Midwest.
None of my neighbors know what I do. They don't know. I don't have road signs and I don't want them coming here. And so there is a part of me where, that people don't know me. They know Steve Yezek Lazy. Why they don't know me.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy with that. The shadows, I'm pretty happy. I'm that wallflower guy. I like to sit and observe.
Yeah.
I don't really want to be in the mix.
Hey everyone, our newest sponsor for the Leathercraft Community Podcast Show is Milwaukee Steel Rule Dies. They specialize in manufacturing your leather designs into dies for your clicker machine. They have state-of-the-art equipment that will help you level up your leathercraft products and production with clean-cut leather every single time. Family operated and owned, proudly made in Wisconsin. Contact Milwaukee Steel Rule Dies for all of your leather dye solutions. Who can you attribute your, I would say, like the most education that you've learned from in this leather industry? Is there any classes you took the most from by a particular instructor, or is there anybody who helped push you along on your creative journey?
I took a lot of classes, but like I said, most of my classes were focused on saddle. It was construction. I mean, I knew I was so weak in that, and I had to take it serious if it was going to ever be anything. And I wanted to be, if I was going to have any credibility as a saddle maker, I had to take those classes. And so being that's not what I'm known for. Yeah. I mean, Pete Gorell was a great instructor. I enjoyed my time with him. Jesse Smith, the very first class I took was the only class I took, but it was very knowledgeable. And I was like, that's what an instructor needs to be. When it came to the artistic side, Gordon Andrus, as far as I was aware, never had taught anybody other than maybe like at his shop. He'd never taught a formal class at a show or anything. And I saw his stuff and I was like, I got to see what makes this guy tick. So I reached out to him and spent 3 days with him. And I'm surprised he didn't just like move along, buddy. You ain't got this.
Yeah.
Cause he should have. It was so over my head. But I did pick up some stuff. But when it came down to who was going to hold my feet to the fire, it would be Peter Main. Peter Main would say something to me and I would just get angry. I'd just go, leave me alone. Leave me alone. Like, I'm just this is all the better I am. Like, but he didn't believe that or something. I really believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe Peter Main will help anybody. But if he sees potential, he will really try to push you. And he tried to push me. And I'm resistant to it, but the things he would tell me, these little details that I would overlook, they're like everything. And I see I see that in a lot of there's a lot of people's work I admire.
Yeah.
And I go, they got those details. Like, who pushed them, The thing is because I don't really search. I don't hunt out people.
Got it.
I go to the shows and I don't mix with those people. I actually mix far more with, a lot of my students.
Got it.
Because they're real people. I mean, everybody's a real person, but like I'll find out that they like something that isn't leather related, and then we click. And I maintain those relationships. But when it comes to leather, I've missed a lot of opportunities by not getting in the mix.
We are all growing and learning and trying to be better at this craft and stuff. And some people are watching this or making a full-time living at it. Is there any techniques that, like, off the top of your head that you think that you can just pass along to everyone that they can learn from and grow from? Because I know it's a pretty broad statement, but there's I feel like with someone like your knowledge and your skill set, there's something that people are missing.
I got to say, keep it simple, stupid, because I don't. And when I would give a class, I'd say, how many of you do this for a living? How many of you do it as a hobby, or a little side hustle where it's not life and death?
Yeah.
And for those who did it as a living, I'd say, I apologize because I'm going to teach you how to lose money. Because and I understand this because I have a business. I have a business that has supported my family and sent my kids to college and all that. And it was not a losing business. It was a successful business. I kept it small by choice. But when it comes to leather, it's no different. What can you do? You can always pay attention to all these details and lose money. What is an acceptable standard? And like, people don't want to hear that, but we can't expect people in this industry, our customers, we can't expect them to find the money for the highest quality work. Their budget, they're not going to take out a second mortgage so they can have so-and-so's saddle.
Yep.
So there's a part where you say, what can I do that's acceptable and it's quality? And that's like, like, as far as a technique, I can teach you everything to slow you down, everything to cut your profits. I mean, reduce your profits, it costs you money. That's what I'm about. If you take away the teaching and the pattern packs, I'm so in the hole. I'm the worst person to ask, but you know what? I say that with satisfaction because this enriches my life where I'm at.
Yeah.
And if I never make $1 on it,
yep,
shoot me. Bury me with the horse.
Let's talk about burnout and artistic funk. How do you get out of an artistic funk? Because I think we all hit it at some point. I do a lot of video editing and also some leather stuff. And I feel I hit a burnout. And all of a sudden I'm just like, I just need to veg out and not touch anything for weeks on end. How do you go about getting over that artistic funk?
I'm not even sure when it happens, but it does. I don't know. It's like you don't feel it coming on, but here it is.
Yep.
And it's kind of that's when I look for outside inspiration. I hike and backpack a lot. I put a lot of people think I'm lying when I tell you how many miles I put on in a year. But when I'm out there, I'm at peace and I'm absorbing things and I'm paying attention to light and depth and all these things I talk about. But I'm also, recharging. And by looking at outside sources that are so far from what you're like, when you're young in this industry, in the leather, it's everything. It's like going to the fair. It's like the circus. And everything's shiny and new and I need. And I go to shows now and I spend like $60. Last time I went to Sheridan, I came home with a bunch of glue. I bought glue. You laugh. Glue and things that were flammable. But I do look for inspiration, and I find I'll go into the debut, and it's always something I didn't anticipate, or like, why am I drawn to that? And I go study it. But it isn't just in leather. I look at engravers. I get inspiration from musicians because of what the discipline, and they get burnout. Because artists, humans get burnout. It's not just artists.
Correct.
Like, right, who isn't saying I've been doing this long enough, and I just want to go be a security guard at Walmart, because I don't want to do this anymore. You just got to get away. You got to get away. Leather is not my life. It's just a segment of my life.
Yeah.
If leather becomes your whole, it's all you have. If you're good with it, great.
Yeah.
But burnout is, I've seen so many super talented people in this industry, and I'm sure it happens in painting and everything else. Potential talent that I just could only dream about having. Yeah. Man, they're just like, but they want it so bad. They want something so bad. I don't know what they want, but they want it. They want it now. And they burn out. And some of them never recover. I've kind of changed the direction I'm going with leather. But as I thought about it, because I've quit things in my life. I used to be a really avid hunter. I don't hunt anymore. I don't have any problem with hunting. I'm done with it. But I thought, am I there with leather? And I had thought that in COVID, and then I kind of got through it, and then, so I just made this decision in life. There's circumstances, but I just I got to change something. That isn't what I want to be. I don't want to be the expert. And I've had people say, you can't forget what you know. It's but I don't have to be the guy touting,
Yeah. Yeah. Beating his chest on everything.
Yeah.
Correct.
And so it's like, if burnout is coming or you're in burnout, you just gotta walk away.
Yeah.
Reassess it, analyze why. Am I too hard on myself? Mostly you'll find that people no longer are finding joy, and they're not allowing themselves some grace. They're just like,
exactly what you talked about, the grace.
it's always there. Like, so few artists are terrible at that. All artists are so hard on ourselves, and I see guys that are woodworkers that just do top-notch work, and same thing, because it gets to this point where it's from, I say that when you do this stuff, it should be as easy as breathing. If it isn't, maybe you have to learn how to breathe again. And biggest thing that people come into a classroom and, they want to learn how to draw. Who doesn't? I did. Want to learn how to draw these things I can't draw. I can draw everything else, but I can't draw these patterns. And they say, I can't draw. And I really want to say to them, goodbye, because I can't convince you can. I can't convince you. 6 inches of real estate.
Yeah.
Decide whether you can draw or not. I can't teach it.
All right, Steve, before we wrap this up, my last question is my favorite question I ask everybody. I love to know, because it's very intriguing to see how everyone does leatherwork. They do their own thing. What is your favorite tool or machine in this shop? I just love this. I love to know, what do you love to use?
You're asking a hoarder.
I know. We're in the shop. I see.
Like-
it is. There is a lot here. If the audience only knew what was behind these cameras, they would be like, "Oh my goodness!"
Well, like if it's so, and I knew you were going to ask this. It was the only thing I knew you were going to ask because I've watched your podcast, and I could, philosophize. This is a, and this is why, and there are some things that I really like. I like old splitters. I like old stitching horses. I love them. They're just, but my favorite tool is a pencil. I could sit at the light table with a pencil and paper, and I never have to put it to leather again. Never have to put it to leather. I think I don't feel like I have anything to prove, but if I had to prove it, I think I've proven I can tool leather.
Yeah.
So, but I have not even come close to what I can do with that pencil. It's one tool that does one thing. If you limit it to that, it does everything. It brings my thoughts to reality. It's if there's burnout or everything seems stale, well, put the pencil in the other hand. get a different look at it.
Yep.
And that's very boring to people. That paper or pencil is, I definitely don't think the eraser's my favorite. But my gosh, from where I stand, that has served me well. A pencil has served me well.
Okay, fair enough. So if anybody wants to contact you and ask you questions on anything, fair enough. All right. How can they contact you? What's the easiest way for them to message you?
I would say at this point, just I haven't left Facebook completely. I'm not in the groups anymore. I'm just I'm hermitizing.
Yeah.
And but I usually respond to people on Messenger. I would say don't be an asshole.
Got it.
You know what that is, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's like you ask, but you don't ever take the advice.
Correct.
It's like the grace I'm allowing myself by saying I do not want to be the expert. I do not want to be the master. I do not want to be anything. Is that you can't expect anything of me. I will give. I've never held back knowledge. I've helped a lot of people, and the question sometimes why. I won't hold back knowledge, and I will try to help, but you have to realize that, like, this guy's out of cell phone coverage for 6 days at a time sometimes by choice. And, I've had people mad, I thought you were mad at me. No, I'm living a life. So
you're out in the woods.
It's Facebook or it's Instagram, and I don't care for Instagram's weird. I just always get weird crap on there. People won't try to sell me leather from somewhere I don't want to buy leather from.
Fair enough. All right. Well, Steve, thank you for sharing your insights and a little bit about who you are.
Thank you for spending your time coming way up to nowhere.
Hey, we are literally, where are we, by the way, so the audience knows?
I'm, it's Danbury, Wisconsin is my postal address. I'm 13 miles from there. I'm closer to Duluth than Superior, Wisconsin. And most people know where Lake Superior is, or you should have learned that in geography. But I moved up here so many years back. It's totally by design. I knew that I was never going to fit in with the masses. And this is where you can be a very individual person.
It's perfect.
And here it is.
And there you are. You made a life out of it. So, well, Steve, thank you again for joining us on another episode of the Leathercraft Community Podcast Show. And I want to thank the audience. Thank you for watching another episode, and take care. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.